Hello, this is Guava Moment here with the results for week 5. A week that turned out to be more difficult than I thought it was going to be, I believe. We'll start off with this solution by Have Jesus, who's a guy that I really like because he shows off solutions that are good enough to show in a video, but crappy enough for me to make fun of. So this is a pretty typical way to make this. Fuse hydrogen into a carbon to make nitrogen, and then again to make the hydroxide group. So here, fuse that, fuse one more, bond it together, move them over, and start bonding the monomers down into this huge polymer. Very clever use to reuse this bond as right here to both make the HCOH, and on the way back to bond this group together. And a simple flip-flop counter to output it. So 877, that's a very good score. It's a pretty standard way of assembling this molecule. But I have a couple issues with this. First of all, let's just do that. That changes absolutely nothing, right? But now this column right here, no atoms ever enter that column at all. That means we can do this. We just dramatically shorten the paths of everything. This will still output the exact same molecule, or still build it. The problem is it doesn't output correctly, but that's what the chemical sensor for. We could have the chemical sensor, I don't know, move it over a little bit, output it, go back to start, sync. I guess blue's gonna have to output at some point. Sync. I think this should work, actually. Yeah, there we go. And, well, I just saved him 22 cycles there. Now this is a solution by Netherus. He did pretty much the same thing. Make an HCOH, make an HCH, bring them all over and start building the polymer down. And by having it straddle the output so that part of it sits outside, he can have only a small loop to output it by using the carbon sensors here. Saves quite a lot of time for that one. Now this is my solution. Red looks a little bit complicated, but all red is doing is just moving this one OH down and over a little bit. It does that by coming through a whole bunch of different ways just to save time. But here's a big trick that I found. Rather than trying to build the molecule one monomer at a time, build half of it. Then you don't have to move over so far as you're building this main stack. Then once you get two of these halves together, stitch them together, and output. I was really happy with this one because there are no sinks anywhere in this. I just use this hydrogen sensor thing here to delay blue when red's off doing its thing, or to have it come over here and output it the instant red drops. I was really proud to get this under 700 cycles, 699. So of course Cannibal K9 comes up and does pretty much the exact same thing with the two halves stitching together. And he gets, one cycle. This is why I will never pronounce your name correctly. And it's also why I was really happy when Mr. Blarney came and submitted this one. Much like the other two fast solutions, it builds it in halves and stitches them together. Final time, 668 cycles. I don't know what it is that makes this one so fast. Maybe it's just because the red and blue doesn't move the whole completed molecule down by 2 and then goes back and moves it down one row at a time. I don't know why, but yeah, this one just turned out to be the #1 solutions. And it's because of the PAX challenges, I guess Mr. Blarney's used to having #1, so congratulations, Mr. Blarney. And finally, I want to show off something a pseudo dude pointed out, which is a little weird. Right here we'll have red input a new alpha, which should collide, but we've seen this before, it doesn't collide, the fuse somehow works. But blue ends up holding on to the new one for some reason. The hydrogen that it's holding onto gets fused into the carbon, so it somehow ends up holding onto this one. If we switch the order around, then that doesn't happen. Blue doesn't hold onto it. It's kind of just a weird quirk he found. Which brings us to Oxygen Snake, one of my favorite challenges we've done so far. This was my solution for least cycles. I built this first just to give myself an idea of how to make this as efficiently as possible. If you know how to build something very quickly, then trying to build it simply seems to be just a natural extension of that. So since I think as everyone figured out, you have to figure out some way to probably make a 4-long stick of oxygen. You need 2 bonders for that, which leaves you 2 bonders just to make the whole snake. So this is for as goofy as this challenge looks, I thought this had quite a lot of interesting nuances and difficulties to make this pretty cool. So I'm starting off by showing Mirror's solution. He did basically the same thing I did to make the 4-long oxygen stick. And then using a series of flip-flops, he reuses these bonders to make this version, or this monomer, and then uses the other 2 bonders to make the other side. And then using the oxygen sensor to output it. Now part of me just feels bad looking at all these lines and all this wasted space, but this is a low symbol challenge, so it doesn't matter how long it takes, you just want to use low symbols. So we got to 39 symbols, and oh god, this is taking forever. That's a lot of cycles, but 39 symbols, pretty good. And this is a solution by Have Jesus again, making the 4-oxygen stick, and using a clever set of flip-flops to move it over and rebond it, kind of like a typewriter. And like most low symbol solutions, it's slow, but it'll get the job done. So for 34 symbols. But when he submitted this, I looked at it, and I immediately have a problem with this. This is not good. This is if you're doing a low symbol challenge, trying to flatten out loops is a great way to save symbols. So without even looking how the rest of this works, let's try this. Let's move that sync up 2, move that sync up 2. That means you can delete those and add 1. So I just deleted 2 symbols and added 1. So it's a net savings of 1 symbol, obviously. This guy has to go down where it'll be hit by both loops. Here? Most people wouldn't think to have your input and to start way down in the bottom of the loop, but for low symbols, it makes a lot of sense. So there you go, I just saved you a symbol by flattening out that loop. Saved you a symbol. And it took, well, faster? And it's faster too, somehow. Oh yeah, because the exit loop is a little shorter. So there you go, there's a way to improve your solution, Have Jesus. Pseudo Dude was one of very few people to have both Waldos create a 4-oxygen stick and have the oxygen snake built from the top down. Getting down to 33 symbols. Pseudo Dude also submitted this kind of curiosity where he builds the oxygen snake in a different way. By using, instead of sticks, he builds U-shaped little bits of oxygen. This is very symbol heavy because that was a unique way. Now it's on to different loops where it's doing this 3 times. But just to build a much different looking oxygen snake. 66 symbols. Well, it's just a curiosity more than anything. My solution. So like my least cycles solution, have one Waldo come in and do most of the work building a stick. This delay here for 1 cycle is really important. So the first one, not an issue. It's this coming here where things get interesting. So blue has to come in and move it over to have it bonded. The third one, always a problem to make right there. A lot of people would want to have maybe a bond here because this is where the bond would be for the off cycles, but then it would create a bond between these two and it would be a difficult thing. But by having blue come around and move it back and forth and have the delay here, you can save a bunch of symbols. In fact, reuse this bond to make both sides of a bonds it vertically there and then bonds it on the other side there. Ends up with 31 symbols. I was really proud of this. I didn't think this one would actually be beat because I spent a lot of time, because I really liked this level, spent a lot of time with it, didn't think you could beat this. So enter Nethris, who did pretty much the same thing. I had my flip-flop where that bond would be, I think that's where he ended up with the saving the symbol, because he uses this bond both forward and back, where I had to have my blue have two bond symbols. And then this whole thing is pretty clever. To have blue come in, use this sync twice on the way forward and back to move it around. A very, very clever solution by Nethris. Now when I was building it, I noticed that if this middle section had another extra space in it, that you could do something kind of like this. Have a sink at a corner or something, but this was kind of a difficult challenge. You're very cramped, you don't have a lot of bonders, but I liked it a lot. So congratulations to Nethris for his 30 symbol solution. That was the best one I received. So congratulations to Mr. Blarney and Nethris for their #1 solutions, and I hope to see more of you for week 6.